welcome to the show. Well, the big news was this.
We've got to get control of this. The warning from the country's top scientists as Britain enters a second wave of coronavirus.
If we don't take action now, we could see 50,000 cases a day by mid-October
and 200 deaths per day a month later.
The Prime Minister today announced new restrictions for England in the light of rising cases and suggested they could be in place for 6 months.
We must take action now because a stitch in time saves 9.
Jesus Christ. Things are getting serious. And our leader is Boris Johnson, a man who talks in fucking riddles. Here's how a scientist explained it.
We have to break unnecessary links between households because that is the way in which this virus is transmitted.
And here's how Boris Johnson put it. We need to flatten the camel's hump to save Christmas. Go on, Britain! We need to flatten the camel, squeeze the gerbil, squash the otter, tickle the badger, and finger the meerkat. Too much. All we're looking for is a little bit of clarity. Are we going to go into a second lockdown? Yes or no? Matt Hancock.
It's not a no, and it's not a yes. It is a...
It's definitely, probably, a maybe, possibly. Now, one thing we do know, the test and trace system is an absolute shit show.
You can't get online appointments, you can't do anything here, so I'm worried.
I've been trying online every hour, on the hour, for 4 days.
It was a nightmare.
It's not on.
Well, I'm concerned, honestly.
Just shocking.
There's nobody here, so why is it fully booked?
It's an absolute joke. It's just ridiculous.
I'm going to cry. That's how frustrating it is.
Whoever designed the system should be stood up against a wall and shot.
It's a bit much. But no wonder he's angry. Remember when Boris promised this?
We will have a test, track and trace operation that will be world-beating.
World-beating? He wants to shoot you in the face. Christ, a leading scientist has said COVID testing is dying on its arse. It's got so bad, scientists are talking like us. Every time they see Boris talking, they must feel like this lady.
Bang!
Oh, shut up, you cunt!
People locked down. They put their lives on hold. And then, when you said it was safe, we went back out. And all the while, we kind of assumed that you were working on a system that tested properly, like you said you were. And yet it turns out that the lady you put in charge of the system is utterly clueless.
I don't think anybody was expecting to see the really sizable increase in demand that we've seen over the course of the last few weeks.
What the fuck are you talking about? It's the only thing scientists have said.
A second wave.
The second wave.
Second wave.
The second wave. The second wave.
A second wave.
The second wave.
The second wave.
A second wave. A second wave.
We're going to have a bumpy ride over the next few months.
Yes, we are. It was obvious it was going to happen. The second wave was as well disguised as this guy. No, you can't have a bank loan. You're a dog. It gets worse. Because they didn't get their shit together on coronavirus, it's damaging other services. Have you seen the latest plans for A&E? They are ridiculous.
People needing urgent help at A&E are being asked to book an appointment through NHS 111 before turning up to hospital.
You have to book an appointment for an emergency.
Hello, A&E. You've what? You've chopped your arm off? Right. What are you doing, April? What? Excuse me. He's died.
It's mad, isn't it? You can't plan for an accident. Imagine that. Hello, can I book an appointment next Wednesday? Because I'm going out with my friend Mad Dave, and last time we hung out, this happened. feels like whenever the government try to help the NHS, they fuck it up. I mean, did you hear about face masks?
The government spent £150 million on 50 million face masks that can't be used by the NHS because of concerns that they don't fit properly.
How can you spend 150 million quid on masks that don't fit? Who bought them, Mad Dave? It's insane. You wouldn't buy trousers with one leg. You wouldn't buy pants that look like this. Not only did they waste millions on masks that don't fit in an era where thousands of companies are going under, the British government is investing 170,000 in a company that throws sex parties. Yeah, they really want us to eat out to help out. It's crazy, isn't it? Better testing, PPE that fits? No, let's invest in a fuck club. Do you know what's fascinating? It's a company called Killing Kittens, and the founder is one of Kate Middleton's old school friends. It's almost like it's who you know. Because if my mum was running a swinging club called Drowning Dogs, I very much doubt she's getting that sweet dollar. Because she is, and she didn't. What is it with Britain and sex? I mean, we were given this advice. The best sexual partner during the pandemic is yourself. Only in this country. New Zealand went for full lockdown. Britain, we went for this. Your cock needs you. Come on, ladies, frig for victory. Should we test and trace? No, keep calm and carry lube. The best sexual partner is yourself. Mind you, it's a great excuse for teenagers. Get out, Mum, I'm trying to save Nana's life.
Apparently it's good for my skin too.
Now, over in America, they've got other problems.
At least 30 people have died in wildfires that are engulfing the western coast of the United States of America.
Thousands of homes have been lost. Many dozens of people are reported missing.
I'm 55 years old and I've never been homeless.
Lives and livelihoods swept away in a flash.
I had seen videos, but it's 1,000 times worse than I could have ever imagined.
Death, destruction, despair. So, what did their president do? He denied climate change.
If we ignore that science and sort of put our head in the sand and think it's all about vegetation management, we're not going to succeed together protecting Californians.
Okay. It'll start getting cooler. You just watch.
I wish science agreed with you.
Hey, well, I don't think science knows, actually.
What a fucking moron. And I'm told we can go live to Greta Thunberg.
How can you disagree with science? You're poisoning the planet, you orange fuckwit!
Thanks, Greta. Now, of course, got funny eyes, isn't she? Of course Trump disagrees with science. This is a man who looks directly at the sun. This is a man who doesn't know how to close an umbrella. This is a man who suggested dropping nuclear bombs to divert hurricanes. He wanted to fire a nuke at the fucking wind! How's he going to stop wildfires? Put this guy in a bazooka? His bullshit knows no end. Here he is talking about forest management.
You go to other countries, you go to Austria, you go to Finland, you go to many different countries, and they don't have forest. I was talking to a head of a major country, and he said, we're a forest nation.
Right. And what did this head of Austria or Finland say to you?
He said, we have trees that are far more explosive. He meant explosive in terms of fire. But we have trees that are far more explosive than they have in California. And we don't have any problem because we manage our forests.
Yeah, it's all about forest management. It's got nothing to do with the fact that Finland's average temperature is 5 degrees Celsius. And this year, the temperature in California's Death Valley reached 54.4 degrees Celsius. That is so hot, it could even make this guy sweat. Good joke, right, Greta?
Yeah, it was good, it's good, it's good.
It's not just climate change. It turns out Trump knew all along how dangerous coronavirus was.
Donald Trump intentionally underplayed the impact of coronavirus despite being aware of the danger it posed. That's according to Washington Post journalist Bob Woodward.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down. Yes, sir. Because I don't want to create a panic.
There is no need to panic. You people are going to be absolutely fine. Don't worry in the slightest. Roger! Get my private jet ready! You people are going to be absolutely fine. Trump doesn't care about anyone but himself. He knew how deadly the virus was, yet his rallies still look like this.
President Trump held an indoor rally. No masks were required. The Washington Post obtained video of his staffers removing stickers from chairs. These stickers encouraged social distancing.
It's astonishing. No masks, no social distancing. What else did he make him do? Sneeze on each other and fuck a bat? It's so frustrating. 200,000 deaths, and Trump still won't promote masks.
A lot of people don't want to wear masks. There are a lot of people think the masks are not good.
Yes, there are, and most of them are fucking crazy.
I am not a sex slave that wears masks.
Right.
We are being lied to, our freedoms are being taken forever, and I will not be muzzled like a mad dog.
I don't wear a mask for the same reason I don't wear underwear. Things gotta breathe. It is a false narrative. And when you wear a mask, which you can certainly do, you are further pushing the agenda that is condemning all of us and keeps us living in a state of terror.
If only there was something we could put on her so she'd shut the fuck up. This is definitely my favourite. Look why this sweet old lady doesn't like masks.
I'll tell you another reason I hate masks. Most child molesters love them.
Child molesters love masks. So that means beekeepers, welders, scuba divers, all massive nonsense. Tell you what, if she's right, then this show is an absolute pedo's paradise.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Mars Singers.
Imagine that. Wouldn't that be great? Just seeing Joel Dummett.
Hi, guys. Is it a singer? Is it a nonce?
It's both. It's Rolf Harris. Now... Join me after the break when I'll be chatting to the award-winning journalist and author Elizabeth Day. The show. Now it's time for life lessons. This week, the guys were asked about their sexual awakening.
My sexual awakening can be explained in 3 words. Here they come. Jet from Gladiators.
I think my sexual awakening was Chesney Hawkes' mole. Yeah, I just felt something when I watched I Am the One and Only creeping around downstairs, if you know what I mean.
Oddly, I've now heard that Jet from Gladiators provides a service where she'll come and, for a fee, feng shui your desk to help with your mental health. I don't even agree with feng shui. You know, I don't say if someone goes, "Oh, how are you feeling, Craig?" "Oh, I'm feeling a bit down, actually." "Well, have you thought about shifting your coffee table?"
When you were young, we used to find porno mags in dustbin bags. People used to find them in the woods and shit on the side of the road, and it'd be like a real porno mag. No one knew what a porno mag was in those days. There was no internet and shit.
My sexual awakening was when I had my first orgasm. I mean, come on, that's everyone's. I mean, I was 23. when I had my first orgasm. I'm 31. Look at all that time I spent just diddling off and nothing was happening. I don't know what I thought was supposed to happen down there. It was just dust. But the time I had my first orgasm, it was like glitter.
My sexual awakening was almost certainly Julie Andrews as Mary Poppins. I would have been a young boy. I would have been about 8 or something when I first watched Mary Poppins, and when she flies into view, ho-ho, chim-chimney. Chiroo!
My sexual awakening was the Argos Editions catalogue. Yo, bruv, I slammed my willy between the pages bare time. Bang! It was a freak from back in the day, you understand? Pain and pleasure.
A lot of women say Simba from The Lion King. Mine was actually Kovu from The Lion King 2, who was voiced by Jason Marsden, who has done a lot of voice actor work. That dude has a hot voice.
My sexual awakening was last Wednesday when I used a Dyson hand dryer for the first time. Turns out my erogenous zone is on the back of my wrists.
My guest this week is an award-winning writer and podcaster who's made a success out of a failure. Elizabeth Day is an award-winning journalist and author who shot to fame with her best-selling novel, The Party. She's since gone on to launch the hit podcast How to Fail, which has had a massive 13 million downloads and seen her get personal with everyone from Phoebe Waller-Bridge to Lily Allen, who have joined her to reveal their biggest failures. And now she's going even deeper with her new book, Failosophy. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Elizabeth Day! Normally what happens, we kind of like touch elbows, but we're not even allowed to do that now. We have to stay 2 meters apart.
I'm okay with that. I mean, clearly you wanted to touch me, but...
Yeah, that did come across as weird. Like, creep. I'm not allowed to touch people anymore. So you've got a brilliant podcast all about failure. What is so important about failing, do you think?
Well, I think we all fail. That's the first thing to say. So it's actually quite a democratising thing when you realise that. But even though we all fail and we all make mistakes, so many of us feel fearful of it. And my whole point is we shouldn't feel fearful of something that's inevitably going to happen at some point in our life. And that actually, unless we make a mistake, we can't learn the lessons that we need to learn. So making mistakes and making failures actually makes you stronger, more resilient, and more able to succeed in the future. That's the premise of it anyway.
And basically you sort of chat with kind of celebrities and fascinating people.
Exactly. So I asked them in advance of the podcast interview to come up with 3 failures.
Yeah.
And it can be anything. It can be from the relatively trivial, like a failed driving test, to something much more profound, like a failed relationship, or we've had people talking about miscarriage or suicide attempts. And so it really runs the whole gamut. And what's been really beautiful about it is that people have opened up in a very vulnerable way. So they've spoken a lot about their own mental health battles and their own anxieties. And when you hear someone like Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who you mentioned, or Lem Sissay, or Dame Kelly Holmes, or Emily Sandé, or Lily Allen, when you hear them talk about the moments in their lives when things went wrong, and you realise that they still made a success, and actually they learnt a lot from those periods of time in their life, it's a very liberating thing, and I think it makes us all feel a bit less alone.
Are there sort of like failures that people have spoken about that really kind of stuck with you?
There was a man who came on the podcast in season 4 called Mo Gaudat, who blew my mind in many ways. He was someone who had been very successful on paper, albeit not a household name. He was chief business officer at Google X.
Right.
And he had everything that he wanted on paper at a certain point in his life. He had a happy family life, flash cars in the garage, loads of money, and he wasn't happy. So he spent 12 years of his life developing an algorithm for happiness. Right. And he claims that he can make every single person happy. So the algorithm is essentially that if you live your life where your expectation of it is less than or equal to your perception of it, you can be happy.
Right.
And one of his failings was having failed to make the most of the time that he spent with his son, Ali, because his son, Ali, tragically died at the age of 21 during a routine operation. And in the aftermath of that traumatic tragedy, Mo was left reeling, and for weeks afterwards he would wake up and the first thing that he would think is Ali died. He died.
Yeah.
And after a few weeks he decided to shift the thought pattern so that he still thought Ali died, but then he said to himself, yes, but he also lived, and I can be happy that he lived and that I had those memories with him.
Yeah.
And it was such a profound and beautiful thing to share, and I know that that has helped countless listeners.
Massively. How about you? What are your failures?
So I've actually been on the podcast. So the final episode of the first season, I was interviewed myself.
Right.
So I had to choose 3 failures. And it's interesting now, 2 years later, whether they'd be the same. But the 3 that I chose at the time were failure to have children. So
Yes.
that's one thing that I have conspicuously tried at and failed to do thus far. And that's caused me a great deal of pain. But I also want to talk openly about it because I believe that a lot of women feel shame and stigma attached to it, and they shouldn't. So I spoke about that. I spoke about my failure to say goodbye. I'm not great at goodbyes. And an ex-boyfriend of mine was killed before I had a chance to say goodbye. Oh, I'm really like, sorry. So
No,
depressed. I'm really depressing the audience. I'm
but
sorry.
It's not depressing in the slightest because it's people have gone through these things.
Yeah.
So that it's cathartic, isn't it?
Yeah. And then my third failure, because I thought I'd lighten it up a bit, was my failure at tennis.
Yeah.
But it is one of those sports that I love watching. And logically, I couldn't conceive of a reason why I wouldn't be good at it.
Yes.
Because I can move my limbs. It seems relatively easy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. And people were always saying to me, oh, you look like a tennis player. I was like, OK.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. I don't know whether it's a compliment or not.
Do you have like a sort of a dream guest that you think, oh, I'd love to interview that person?
Michael Jordan would totally be up there because I watched The Last Dance like everyone else in lockdown. And was
Incredible, wasn't
obsessed.
it? Yeah.
So good. Michael Jordan would be amazing because he talks so openly about failure and about how he's only able to make those extraordinary shots that he makes because of the 9 times out of 10 that he's failed to make the shot and because of what he's learned about his technique from that.
Yeah.
So I would love him. And then I would settle, you know, Michelle Obama, but I'd settle for her husband. Either of the Obamas would be fine.
Yeah. OK, so you've also got a book out called Failosophy, and it's got the 7 principles of failure. What are those?
So the 7 principles of failure are, the first one is that failure just is, it's a fact, but you're in charge of the emotion that you attach to it.
Nice.
The second one is that you are not your worst thoughts.
Which I love.
Yeah, which I love too. It's hard to do, but you can genuinely train your brain to be more contented.
Yes.
Because generally speaking, your brain does what you tell it to. So if I tell my brain to raise my right arm, it will. And it's an exercise in realising that when your brain gets caught in that anxious narrative, which is telling you you're a failure, you've had an argument with your partner, they hate you, they don't love you anymore, it's an exercise in stopping your brain running away from itself and almost having a conversation with your brain and saying, listen, do you have objective evidence for that? Because if you don't, I'd like you to replace that negative thought with a positive one.
Is there one failure principle that is the best, that you think that's the one?
Yeah, one that I think is brilliant is failure is data acquisition.
OK.
So every time you fail at something, you're acquiring data for how not to fail next time around.
I like that.
And obviously there are different kinds of failures. I'm talking about your common or garden failure, like failing an exam, failing a driving test. There are bigger existential failures like global pandemics that, you know, are less easy to categorise in this way. And a scientist, for instance, trying to come up with a vaccine for a global pandemic would not think that they themselves were a personal failure if an equation that they had put into practice didn't work.
Yeah.
They would think, well, that's necessary data, and I can exclude that from my inquiries and hopefully get closer to the thing that does work.
Yeah.
And I think you can apply that to many areas in life.
What's interesting is it's vitally important to fail and to learn from failure. And yet we sort of live at the moment in this strange world where you can't fail on Twitter. And if you failed 10 years ago, then we'll end you now.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think it's a real issue, and you're absolutely right. That at the precise moment that we're being encouraged to live our lives more publicly, we're also hamstrung by the fear of cancellation.
Yeah.
Because if you send out an ill-thought tweet one day, the next day it could go viral and you could lose your job. I mean, this has happened to many, like multiple people.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there's an easy answer, to be honest. I just think that people need to be much more considered about what they put out there.
Yeah.
Because the key thing that you need to do is that you need to provide yourself with as safe a space as possible to take risks.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you can never evolve and otherwise your life can never progress. And it breaks my heart because a lot of the people who listen to my podcast are in their 20s and they've grown up with this fear because they've grown up with social media.
Yeah.
And they're actively not pursuing promotions, not taking risks in their relationships, and they're stuck. They feel really stuck and fearful. And so all I can do from my position is to open up the conversation around it and say that it's okay and that most of us will hopefully live to see another day and try again tomorrow.
Absolutely. Do you ever sort of feel like it'd be interesting as well to have like sort of non-well-known guests?
Definitely. I have had quote-unquote non-famous people.
Yeah.
Not as many, and there's a really practical reason for that, which is that, you know, people listen to podcasts when they know the person, they know the name, and ultimately I want more people to listen so that more people can hear about how to tackle failure in their own lives.
Yeah.
And I do think that there is something really reassuring about knowing that those celebrities we see glitzy and glamorous on the red carpet have actually been through struggle. Like, it hasn't all been plain sailing. And there's something really necessary about that, I think, because we live in such a culture of curated perfection where it feels as though you're only as good as your last Instagram post and you need to look like a Kardashian to succeed. And I just want to attack and interrogate that notion.
Oh, that's a phenomenal answer. Well, talking of the world of celebrity, the other thing I find fascinating about you, you lived the lifestyle of Gwyneth Paltrow for a week.
I did.
Following the Goop guide.
Yes.
How was that? What did you get up to?
Oh, my goodness. So I was living in Los Angeles at the time and I was commissioned by a newspaper to live life as Gwyneth for a week. And I have to tell you, it was extremely exhausting and extremely expensive.
Right.
And what I realised was you can only be Gwyneth Paltrow if you've got a lot of money and preferably kind of personal macrobiotic chef.
Yeah.
Because I spent my whole time just racing around to various like beauty appointments. And one of the things that I did is I had my vagina steamed.
Oh, did you?
So, yeah.
Wow.
As you can all probably tell.
Yeah.
That is one thing that Gwyneth credits with sort of hormonal balance and restoring her hormonal balance, all that sort of stuff. And all it involved was going into a kind of basement spa in Santa Monica, wearing a nylon robe and sitting over what was essentially a commode and having steam, like herbal steam, billowed up my nether regions.
Yeah.
And all it achieved for me was that I've just felt a bit clammy in an uncomfortable way.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice any difference other than when I walked out of the spa and I walked down the street towards the beach and a homeless man in a state of drunkenness wolf whistled me. And I thought, well, maybe that's because I've got a nice, clean and freshly steamed vagina.
Yes.
But that's the only thing
But you can never know.
Exactly. That's the mystery of life.
Exactly. You can't turn to him and go, it's because my vagina's just been steamed, isn't it? What's next? What have you got planned?
I've got a gig at the London Palladium, which I'm super excited about, but also terrified, so you'll have to give me some tips.
Just clear eyes, full heart, can't lose.
I love that.
Just go out and, just own it, smash it, have fun. Is it socially distanced, or are you doing...
Yes, so it is. So the London Palladium have all these incredible COVID-secure measures in place, and you can only book in groups of 2 or 4 in household bubbles. So it is totally socially distanced. And then after that, I've got a new novel coming out, and I'm in the process of adapting my earlier book for TV. So it's going to be like a fictionalised comedy version of my life.
Wow. So do you know who's going to be playing you?
No, it hasn't got to that stage yet.
Who would you like? Do you have somebody?
I feel like this sounds arrogant to say it because she's much younger than I am. But I love Daisy Edgar-Jones. I thought she was amazing in Normal People, and she's brunette.
Yes, she'd be ace.
Yeah.
She'd be good. I really enjoyed that. Ladies and gentlemen, the fantastic Elizabeth Day! Join me after the break when I'll be hosting a people's poll about going to work. Time for the people's poll. Apparently, nearly 90% of workers don't want to go back to the office. So I thought we'd talk about that. As ever, we had thousands of replies, and some of them are with me now. Ole! Look at these fabulous people. It's like an advent calendar and I want to eat you all. Creepy. So, let's chat. Has anyone got a workplace they don't want to go back to? Yeah. Lucy, yeah.
Yeah, I had a bit of an experience. It was my first job. I was 17 and I worked in a hotel as a room service runner. So I brought food to people, you know, drink to their rooms, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And one particular day, I must have only been there a month, like not that long. I brought room service down to a couple who were maybe 70s, maybe mid to, you know, early 70s. Oh. And it was just a nice normal dinner, nothing exciting. Yeah, and then later in the evening, I got an order for 2 bottles of champagne. Yep. So I took it down and I opened the door and yeah, they were completely naked apart from a single pillow. Oh, lovely. So I'm stood there and I'm like terrified. Yeah. And it's policy that they sign the check because it goes to the room. So I have to say to this man holding only a throw pillow with one hand, can you please sign my check? Yeah, yeah. He was like, sure. Yeah. So I hand him the check. I thought, well, I'll bring this bucket of champagne through. As I bring it through, the lady is completely spread eagle, completely naked, everything I was allowed to see, right in the middle of the room. And I was just like, I need to get out.
What I would say, Lucy, is that my grandparents had a smashing evening. They said your service was exemplary. What a moment for you. Yeah. But a moment for him as the naked man signing, because I would not have been able to not say, do you want a tip? Because...
He did actually say, to make it worse, he said, wow, this will keep me going for a lot longer.
Oh, Jesus. How bleak is that? So it's the idea that his lady's there spreading on, he's like, fucking hell, you're all right, aren't you? Shut up! Wow. Has anyone else got a place they want to work? Sky, how about you?
I didn't go back to my job.
Oh, really? What? Wow.
Yeah, big time.
So you're one of the 90% Sky, you don't want to go back. Why didn't you go back?
I used to be a legal executive and I went into court one day through security, forgetting that I had a bright red vibrator in my bag. There was one person in front of me and I realised, oh, I forgot they searched your bag. And I panicked and I said, there's something in there I don't want you to see.
Why were you carrying it in your bag?
It's just a simple women's bags full of...
Oh, really? But isn't that fascinating? Because I don't want to speak for all the fellas here, but Vince, Damo and Zeeshan, I'm very much doubt that you've got plastic fannies in your bags that you kind of just sort of walking away. I'm off to work, got my keys, I nearly forgot my plastic fannies. Isn't it amazing? So what happened then? Did you...
He didn't say a word. He just locked eyes with me and let me go through. And unfortunately, I was only in there for a short hearing that day, and I knew when I came out I was going to have to go past the same guy, and just no words were spoken.
Yeah. Wouldn't it have been great if there'd been a mix-up and the judge got a gavel and went, bang, oh, God. Where's that come from? And later on that night, you're like, oh, Jesus, I'm going to give myself splinters here. It's a bit much, but, you know, do you still have the... I don't want to do it. Do you still have the vibrator? Do you ever sort of look at it and go, oh, the memories we've had? Or... I don't know. Is it... Do you keep them? I haven't got one.
I think I do still have it.
You think you've got it? It could be anywhere.
My kids watch it.
Oh, fantastic. It's probably in their school bag. They're probably, like, marching to school like that. Amazing, amazing story. Do you know what I used to hate about jobs? Well, everything. But, like, job interviews. Do you know what I mean? I always thought it was one of the worst things. You just find it, like, Nikki, you were sort of shaking your head there. Yeah, oh, well, that's interesting. As soon as I mentioned job interviews and you went like that, I went, oh, no, oh, no. What happened with you?
I was about 18 years old. It was like my first proper job interview in London.
Nice.
I got my suit and everything. I was really excited. And my mum said, look them in the eyes. Make sure you look them in the eyes.
Yes.
So I walked in and there was 3 men and a woman stood behind, sat behind a table.
Yes, yes.
And the first guy got up and went, hello, how do you do? I'm so-and-so from so-and-so company. And he put his hand out to shake. And instead of shaking it, I kind of turned it and like kissed it. Like, but my mum told me to make eye contact. So as I did it, I sort of made eye contact. But then it suddenly dawned on me that I had to then do it to the other 2 men and the woman.
Wow.
I could see the air, literally the air went silent. Everyone was just like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
And so I went to the next guy and kissed him. And when I got to the woman, I thought, please don't put your hand out. Please don't put your hand out. And she just put it as if she was
Oh, that'd have been so great if you then, Nikki, just kind of just went like that and just started doing it to yourself.
I never heard from them. I didn't even get a rejection letter. That's how bad my kissing must be.
That's so funny. How about you, Zeeshan? I'm intrigued by your hand, if you don't mind me asking.
Oh, so me and my cousins went out, and you know those electric scooters you can do with a pay as you go?
Yes, they're amazing. They're the greatest things. You feel like an absolute fucking wizard from the future, don't you?
Oh,
you are the Sky Lord. Do you know the worst thing about them? Cobbled streets. Because all the glamour is instantly gone. If you're a woman that's quite busty, holy shit, you're like that.
Oh, no. We thought, you know what, we were really good at it. Got a bit too cocky. Decided, you know what, shall we race it? Yeah. It was not a good idea, so I messed up my whole hand. So all the skin down here is essentially gone.
Yes. And in a time of lockdown. Yeah.
Not the greatest idea. Definitely a great idea plan. So yeah, it was like with the interviews thing. It was a couple of years ago. It was done when I was living in London.
Yes.
Go into the room, I feel a bit something. I thought, you know what, I'm a bit nervous. They call my name up, come in, and then right on the table, boom, I just puked all over the table. and it was just like, oh, what am I supposed to do here? And it was like, I was trying to say, clean it up.
Oh, Zeeshan, mate.
Yeah.
What was the job interview?
It was just a supermarket, just looking for a job.
Yeah. So it would have been great if your job was, we've had a spillage on aisle 3. It was me. I'm trying to get the job. Spillage in aisle 3, please.
I didn't get a call back.
Mate, have any of you got jobs ever? It's fantastic. How about you, Jennifer? Have you had any workplace disasters?
I definitely have, yeah. So a few years ago, I used to work for a chocolate factory. And as I was fairly new there, I was feeling
Jennifer,
a bit
I'm going to have to check your height because Mr. Wonka's an absolute bastard. The way he treated you people.
Yeah, no. I'm working at a chocolate factory. I was feeling a bit iffy, and I was like fairly new. I'd only worked there for like a couple of months.
Yes.
And I said to my boss, I can't come in. I'm not feeling very well. I already had a day off. He was like, look, stop messing about. If you'd worked here for 10 years, we'd let you have more time off. But he was like, no, you've got to come in. I didn't really explain the nature of my illness. So I came into work, I was feeling a bit iffy, and basically I shit myself. My mum had to come pick me up.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, Jennifer, like, I love the fact that you didn't explain the nature of the incident. Presumably it was fairly obvious as you're like, I need to go home now. As you just sort of edged away like that. Nah, just gonna moonwalk home. Oh no.
I just went home with no pants, it was fine.
Well, I really enjoyed that. I think we've learned why 90% of people don't want to go back to work. It's because it would appear that work is a particularly traumatic place for a lot of British people. Thank you so much for joining us. That was amazing. Take care, guys. Bye. Now, finally tonight, it's Good Deeds and a story about an amazing man who found himself in a desperate situation and used it to help others.
I'm Mike Trower, and along with my son, we created Cooking with Cody. Cooking with Cody is an online cooking show. We help families on low income cook really nutritious, budget-friendly food. In 2018, I had a relationship breakdown. I took full custody of my children. I became a full-time single dad when Cody was 2 years old and Lara was just 3 months old. After quitting my job and selling everything, I was just about covering bills. We moved town for a fresh start and we ended up in a homeless shelter with my children. After having nothing left to sell and no money in the bank, we resorted to food banks. So we got our food parcel from the food bank. There was loads of stuff in there, really, really generous of people to donate. So after we did the beans and after we did the hot dog sausages, I was like, what do I do with the rest of this stuff? I didn't know what a chickpea was. There you go. Give that a mix in. So I video called my mum, and then Cody's behind me, just tapping away with spoons on the top of these tins. And she said, it looks like Cody's got more of an idea of how to cook than you do. So my family saved and chipped together to give me enough money to get a deposit and first month's rent for a flat. Took a couple of videos. Posted them online. That's when we started the show. But now our aim is really to help low-income families and children learn how to cook food. The point of doing this is to help parents understand that it's OK to make a mess. It's OK for carrots not to be grated in the same way. Just get it stuck in, just have fun, family time. Lara's so active in the kitchen, it's definitely changing to Cooking with Cody and Lara now. We've got like about 3,500 followers at the moment, and it's growing unbelievably well. Recently, we've started to cook for a homeless charity in Paignton, and we've cooked over 1,400 meals for them now. The Thrive Project is a charity who help the homeless, people coming off addiction, and people who need a bit of extra support.
The Thrive Project is there if you need help, if you're in crisis, if you're lonely. We're here. We will go over and above to try and support you however we can.
Food is brilliant. They got me a place to live, and if you're homeless, that is your food source. And I'll keep you going all night. Without these people, I would not have survived.
Cooking with Cody show is brilliant, inspirational, and I don't have enough good words to say about it.
Cooking with Cody is now a community interest company. If anybody wants to donate, then they can just go to our website and pay it forward for a pizza kit which we can send to a family in need. I have plans to open up venues over the UK to provide facilities for families to learn to cook in with free cooking lessons. Cooking with Cody has got big dreams and we're just getting started.
Amazing stuff. Thanks very much for watching the show. Good night, my friends. Good night.